conversation. So we are grateful to Professor Suresh Babu and Professor Amanpreet Kaur for joining us. And I request Professor Amanpreet Kaur to kindly speak for 5 minutes about your work, please. You have done very important work in Punjabi language and cultural studies. You are also a poet. And what is also inspiring in your journey is to bring a kind of spiritual dedication to path of language. Because in one way, language and learning have a very deep spiritual dimension. And what I humbly feel when I meet you, that they become so spontaneously interconnected. So, and then I also request, after you speak, I request Professor Suresh Babu, who is also a scholar of education, sociologist of education, critical pedagogue, to tell about your work. In the meantime, Dr. Misra will join. So, Professor Amanpreet Kaur, please.
Thank you, Professor Ananta. Sat Shri Akal to all. I, Ramanpreet, am working as a professor at Central University of Punjab. My area of specialization is basically Punjabi linguistics, and I am master in Punjabi language and both in religious studies. I worked on in my PhD research work is on the verse structure of Dasam Granth, one of the scripture of Sikhi. So I started my work as a grammarian. Then I shifted into semiotics, and in that way, actually, I contributed in Punjabi scholarship in the form of semiotics and grammatical studies. And my area of interest, others are I'm working on even the literary studies. Gurbani is my focus. Data I collected for my study, that is Gurbani, medieval Punjabi literature, and I have almost 20 years of experience. I started my journey from Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, my alma mater, and joined here in 2013 as assistant professor. In almost I'm going to complete 12 years here. So it's a not long journey. I'm just a like learner. I still feel I'm a beginner because the moment we are, entering in the sea, we feel how much we have to deep go deep. So it's very interesting. Professor Giri created this. I'm not a poet at all. Sometimes I, write something, and Professor Giri thought of I am a poet. Basically, I am a person who enjoy poetry. I love to be in a poetry. So my area of spirituality, I think we are we are not without. Either we are religious or not, but we feel ourselves. Whenever we are alone, we feel something is there. When we feel connected, even first time when I met Professor Giri, I never ever thought I meeting him first time. We started from, I think, after our one of our presentations, and then moved, another levels. So I think there's something, even today's topic is very interesting in that way, because when we talk about folklore, culture, and language, all are connected. What I feel, the basics of everything is like our philosophy. If we are connected with our philosophy, we are divine, we are spiritual. But when we are materialistic, then we can feel like we are different from each other. So it's a very interesting, and for me it's very good opportunity. I am interacting with you. I don't consider myself, I'm just in the phase of learning. Maybe through this platform I connect something and explore my I worked on the I have 4 books which is about the semantics and semiotics of some of the scriptures of Gurbani, like Jab Sahib, Sukhmani Sahib. My that work, which is most recognized, that is Dasam Granth Rishabd Bantar, like that is a grammar of Dasam Granth. So this is all about me. I have almost guided 5 students right now, PhD scholars, and five are working with me. So this is all about. I welcome you all. Come anytime at the Central University of Punjab, Bathinda, so we can explore more here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Amanpreet Kaur. Sat Sri Akal. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ka
Waheguru Ji
Fateh.
Ki
Okay. So now, Professor Suresh Babu, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Ananda Kumar Giri, inviting me and to be part of these discourses. I'm actually trained in sociology, but last more than a decade, I've been focusing on sociology of education. Yeah, so my interest largely lies in the ecological issues because I did my doctoral studies on the new social movements, especially focusing on the environmental movements in India and how the new social movement is creating a new sociology of knowledge in the larger scale to understand how the new developmental trajectories are also questioned by the people's movement, right? In the Indian context, I was looking at Narmada movement in the later phase, and then how this movement also challenged the larger paradigm of development, nation state, the question of sustainable development, and the people voices, especially in the valley of Narmada. Then later on, I have shifted my interest to when I was actually I started my career in Jammu University as a faculty in the Department of Sociology. So I come across many students in different parts of Jammu, and then one of my major attraction was actually from Ladakh region. So many of my students come from Ladakh. I keep listening to their problems. Then I slowly attracted to Ladakh, and then I start working on the Ladakh region, especially examining the climate change and how the climate change effect and the implications on the life, everyday life of the people. So we had a couple of research programs with my colleagues in the department as well as in the university from some of my students, those who are working in different parts of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. And then we have done a couple of research in Ladakh. It was a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research to see the town, villages, and the kind of education system going on around there. And then we have also produced a couple of research papers and also go to publish to understand, to know that what exactly the problem of climate change in the life of the people, and then how the students are going to be affected because of the drastic changes happening out there. Other than this, my personal interest when I joined in JNU, my center is an interdisciplinary center. The center is known as Zakir Hussain Center for Education Studies. It is named after the first Minister of Education, independent India. So one of the mandate of the center is to study, research, and also orient the students towards interdisciplinary research in education. I started with a couple of larger questions like how uh, sociological problems to be understood through the lens of education. And then later I was thinking that education also matters. And then the educational theories and the sociological theories, somewhere there is a convergence. So I was also looking at this convergence between these two. Then I wrote I edited a work on mediating education and the public sphere. And then uh, we have engaged with some of the students who are very keen to work on this area. Later on, they also began to develop as a research team. So me and my colleague, we have edited another work with our students. It's how to contextualize educational studies, especially looking education as a field of research. Although we discuss education at large, but to consider education as a field, we need to have a different lens with different methodology altogether. We were trying to explore that possibility with the participation of the young scholars. And then recently, yeah, you know that what happened, say, my university also was in crisis from 2016 onwards. There were a lot of tensions and contestation between the administration and the community at large. And the students were also, campus is quite vibrant in terms of the students' activism. So from 2016 onwards, the campus was in turmoil. So this also led me to think very seriously about the kind of pedagogy we practice in the academic spaces, especially in the university system. That led me to also work out another project on the sites of critical pedagogy. And then I recently published a book titled on cultures of learning, and mapping the critical spaces especially in Indian universities and the school systems. That is what broadly I've been doing. That's it. Thank you, Professor G, once again to share some of what I've been doing couple of years.
Thank you, Professor Suresh Babu. And one connecting link here is when Dr. Mishra comes to speak about, I just called him, he joining, about learning in our mother language. And today we would be discussing. Today we would be. Today we will be discussing two of his books he would be presenting. One is his autobiographical work called Loco Aloka, and the other is his work on mother language education. So as we are waiting for him, we also have the enriching presence of Anil Bhai. So Sri Anil Pradhan, who also has been associated with creative educational initiatives, co-learning initiatives, and he has been a friend of Mahendra Bhai in putting into practice some of these works in mother language education in many parts of Odisha, especially in tribal languages, tribal areas. So as we are waiting for Mahendra Bhai, so I request Anil Bhai to kindly speak a bit about your work in this field, please. Also, Anil Bhai has published many autobiographies from Sikhya Sandhan. So in this genre, Mahendra Bhai's autobiographical work, Loko Aloka. So I request you to please tell a bit about your publishing autobiographical works, and also, encouraging teachers to write their autobiographies, and how this is very important for the educational process, because usually we are used to some notable people, some administrators or politicians writing their autobiographies. But when teachers they write their own autobiography, it creates a very, creative field of learning and reflection. So Anil Bhai, please. Anil Bhai, please open yourself. Okay, as we are waiting for Anil Bhai, in the meantime, we have with us Kalpataru Bhai, Mr. Kalpataru Patra, who is also a creative teacher, and he writes, he has very creative processes of science education, and he writes about scientists. He has recently been given a award as recognition for his work. So I invite Kalpataru Bhai. Please tell about your work, your experience in teaching. And in the meantime, Mahendra Bhai has joined. Welcome, Mahendra Bhai. So as we are waiting for you, we'll quickly listen to Kalpataru Bhai. Kalpataru Bhai, please. Would you open yourself?
All of you,
Yes.
am I listening?
Yes, we can hear you.
Myself Kalpataru Patra. I am the teacher of Udia school from Balasar district. I am working in the field of science, popular science programs in all over the Odisha. I am doing some TLM, making a TLM for the teachers in the classrooms. I am writing. I have been writing some books of biography of popular scientists. I am also writing a low cost, no cost household materials book for the teachers and students in the schools. I am working in Balasar district, Bhugurai block, SS High School, Anturai. Thank you, all of you.
So thank you, Kalpataru Bhai. So now our much waiting friend and Dr. Mahendra Mishra is with us. So we invite Dr. Mahendra Kumar Mishra to our learning journey. And in this afternoon, we will be listening to Dr. Mishra's work on mother language education, especially his book in English, Erai Erai. Erai Erai, these are two words in Sora language. And, in neither in the preface nor in the foreword, the meaning is explained. And I think this is so important because Erai, the sound itself creates a vibration. And he writes how during the process of curriculum building and a very interesting workshop has happened. It's a very important book. All of us should read it. I could not share it because this book is copyrighted. And I'm grateful to Professor Amanpreet Kaur and Professor Suresh Babu for giving their thoughts after listening to Dr. Mishra's presentation. And he would also be speaking to us about his book, autobiographical work, Loco Aloka. And that is a very creative work. And these two books are related because only a life that begins with this kind of, immersion in this indigenous life world, on this life world, it can be so open to the sensitivity of teaching and learning in our mother languages. But in the forward to the book, Loco Aloka, Mahendra Bhai writes something very deep and which has a deep implication for thinking about self, culture, world, and memory. Because when we are talking about writing, it involves memory work, whether it is historical memory or personal memory. One line in this book, in the preface, Mahendra Bhai writes, Ethi smruti o anubhava hi akhanara gatiku niyantrana karuchanti. Arthat akhyana, this whole dynamics of story, it does not have a chronological function, though the first chapter is called Matira Manji. And this Odia is so beautiful, and that is the beauty of language, that how learning begins with the beauty of the language, and that beauty, the aesthetic dimension of learning and language. Therefore, Professor Suresh Babu, critical pedagogy also has an aesthetic dimension in that sense that this whole aesthetics of roots and routes. Dr. Mishra, in his chapter in the book Erai Erai on Rupantar, which describes the learning process in which teachers were involved. He writes that he wanted to move ahead with two words, roots and routes. Mati, the roots, and routes, the pathar. I have also co-edited two volumes on roots and routes. So therefore, the first chapter in his autobiographical book Loka Alokha is called Matira Manji, the seed of the soil. In fact, as he describes himself very beautifully, he's growing up and he's coming to this village, Borden, and where he lives with a family, a Muslim family. And given the kind of difficulties today, and even learning today is becoming so religiously segregated, unfortunately, but his narration is so deep, and the kind of kin relations happens, and how he lives with this family, and the head of the family becomes Mamu, as mother's brother. And so this Matira Manji here is a soul who has grown up like all of us as a seed in our soil. But the challenge before us is that are we able to nurture ourselves as the seed of the soil, as Mati Ramanj? Because when we branch out in our life, we forget that we have grown as a seed from our soil. And I think the whole spirit of mother language education is also to each one of us as learner, beginning with our own reality as Mati Ramanji. So with this brief offering, so I invite Dr. Mahendra Mishra to kindly present his two books to us, and you can kindly take up to 40-50 minutes, and then we will listen to reflections of Dr. Suresh Babu and Dr. Raman Prithkau. So Mahendra Bhai, please.
Namaskar. Thank you, Professor Anant Kumar Giri and Professor Suresh Babu, Dr. Bahadur Khetri, Nepal, and Professor Ramanpreet Kaur, Central University of Punjab, Bhatinda, and uh, uh, my friend. Let me. I cannot pronounce his name. Uh, Glanologi Segelereba.
Yes.
And most of the time, Ganologi is present with us. Maybe he understand Oriya. It does not matter, but as a human being, he is always with the most rooted literary workers of Odisha, mediated by Professor Anant Giri, and that really shows that how one unknown is connected to the other unknown. I am really thankful to Professor Giri that he has invited me to speak on two books till today. The books have been published over the last 2 to 3 years, and it has not been discussed in most of the places where it should be. But I don't mind because there are there are two domains. One is the habitats of the people and habitats of the intellectuals. People who really work in the field, in the villages, over years, decades, they really love the places. They may not have chances to uh, enter into the academic domain because of many constraints. Maybe English language is one of that. Also the connectivity, also the time. Where do you find time to? Where do you find time to contribute for your academic discourse or practical discourse? That really is a very big challenge in my life. That over 40 years, when I have been engaged in conducting folklore research and also conducting multilingual education, and both the works have its own domain in academic life, but in our social life, both the works are means of social transformation. Unless you understand the society and language and culture, you may not be able to understand the education. And unless you use all those nuances of culture in education, that education is also not culturally responsible for those children who are deprived over the ages. So these are the struggles that we have endured in Odisha. And first of all, I will speak about Loka Aloka, which is a terminology used by Professor Chittaranjan Das. He was our spiritual guru and intellectual guru and people's guru in Odisha. Chittaranjan Das was a psychologist, a Gandhian, a spiritual disciple of Sri Aurobindo, and is a true Odia to write 300 books in such a simple language that the most difficult and critical philosophical ideas of the world are articulated into a language of communication and language of intelligibility. So loka means folk and aloka means non-folk. This is the meaning of that book. But that book is not a biography or autobiography, so to say. This is a book of memory narrative. And this memory is not chronological. Many memories used to come in our mind. It is incubated in our subconscious level. But what are those memories that really tempts us to make a chronology of life, to understand our own journey of life? And that is Loka Aloka. So it is and I have narrated 2 chapters on my childhood, in the forest areas, in the tribal areas, and how as a Brahmin, upper caste Brahmin, though very poor, was staying in a tribal village for over 37 years. And I became a teacher, but at the same time, how my childhood had helped me to understand the cultural and social anthropology in the future. I was studying in a residential tribal schools, and as I am not a tribal, I was a day scholar. And as a day scholar, I was going to that ashram school and studying there from class 6 to class 11. And also my primary school was also full of tribal children. I was only the Brahmin student in that village. So you consider my own socialization in my home as a Brahmin and my in family and my socialization with the tribes and Dalit and Muslims. That was a small village of 2,000 households where the Muslims from Pakistan were settled there. There were two scheduled caste habitations, and most of the people were Gonds, the tribes of central India. So, what kind of knowledge and worldview and experience and ecology that I got from my childhood was incubated in my mind until I studied folklore after my MA in Odia language and literature. When I studied folklore, and also was engaged in some movement like human right movements and fighting against poverty, fighting against corruptions from 1974 to 1980s. It was a bit of political activities in which I was involved, and I got a consciousness from some leaders, political leaders like socialist leaders like Kishan Patnaik, And that really also tempted me that the poverty really leads to some innovations, and there is no end to struggle. And there are two words told by Dr. Lohia: Sanghars and Nirman. Sanghars means struggle, and Nirman means construction. So I was fascinated to translate Dr. Lohia, and during translating his political philosophy, he was much a cultural analyst. He was much more than a politician. Uh, Rather, he was a cultural analyst in the lens of political and economic life of India. So, Dr. Lohia and Gandhi influenced me a lot. The school I was studying was a place of Gandhi's vision from 1966 to 71. And after that, when I plunged into the social movements, I studied Jayaprakash and Dr. Lohia and many other political thinkers. So my whole orientation was from literature and politics, and literature was in my family. Therefore, the 700 years of Odia literature was shaping my personality. Music, songs, and novels, and short stories and drama. So, with all this, I started my journey. Then I joined as a teacher because of in that district there was no college except one that was 300 kilometers away from my village, and we had no scope to go to a college and read there, study there. Therefore, I joined as a teacher, and after joining, there was a scope to pursue your higher studies being a teacher also. With that, I did my PhD in staying in a school, and I was studying Barrier Alvin, who was the pioneer anthropologist of India from Europe, and I studied his books, and I found that he was a cultural anthropologist and a philanthropist, as well as a folklorist. So studying folklore, looking the whole thing from Barrier Alvin's point of view, really tempted me to think that if a person from Europe is coming to India, coming to my areas and conducting folklore studies and cultural studies, why should not I? That really tempted me to work on my field. And at the same time, the works of Chittaranjan Das really gave me a gave me a vision that who is global, who is international. A person who stands on his land is international in his own merit. That was the sentence of Dr. Chittaranjan Das. So I thought the village where I stand, the environment where I travel is the center of my globe. So unless I understand the center of my globe, what use of understanding the whole globe around me? So I explored my globe with much interest, and maybe I must have traveled across 10,000 kilometers by cycle to collect folklore, and 25,000 kilometers in attending the school from my home to school, every day 14 kilometers, crossing a small hill and crossing a some small rivulet. This was the inaccessibility of my land. And with that, whatever knowledge the people in our locality do have through their practice experience, although not literate, have a deep knowledge about nature, agriculture, society, family, language, creativity, struggle, and happiness and sorrows. All those things really stimulated me. It is and learning from the people with a deep sense of love and affection to them, understanding that cognitively they are highly organic, related to the land, forest, fruits and flowers, birds and animals, and the society. So, in that kind of society, when I lived for 37 years and came to Bhubaneswar and worked work in the Orissa Education Service, um, as an officer, uh, I was not I was not forgetting my roots. Therefore, when I got a route to come to Bhubaneswar, my association with Chittaranjan Das led me to work on education. He told me that you work on tribal education, educating the tribals, because of ethically when you have conducted a research on tribal culture, tribal folklore, your your ethics should tempt you to work on tribal education so that you can give it back to the people in the form of educational development. And if you are not doing that, you are doing a crime, you are a selfish person, because of you did a PhD and got a doctorate on their name with their knowledge, but you are not doing anything substantial for the tribes. And this is one of the things that you are violating the ethics of research. That means this was the idea of Professor Chittaranjan Das. Then with his idea, I started working on that. I said, Chittaranjan, sir, I am from culture, I am not from education, as though I am working in the education department. My priority and my interest is on folklore, not in tribal education. He said that you may not be knowing what is tribal education, but the amount of knowledge that you have on tribal folklore and culture and society is nothing but that is tribal education. Because of education and culture are not two Sautan. Sautan means two wives of a husband. So they will not fight each other. That is the idea of Chittaranjan Das. After that, from 1993 to 97, I worked on different parts of the state, understanding the tribal culture. And 97, Professor Ramakant Agnihotri and Minati Panda from JNU, and some persons like Professor Radha Mohan, environment scientist, Dr. Chittaranjan Das, Gandhian and psychologist, and many other people from sociology, linguistics, English language teaching, Manmat Kundu, all have joined. And I invited all the persons from all the sections of branches of knowledge to contribute on tribal education. And from 97, we worked on Erai Erai. Erai Erai means come, come. In Sora, there is a song that we created with the tribal teachers. They come, come, friend, let us dance. Come, friend, let us play. Erai Erai Obang, Andid Nava. Erai Erai Obang, Akin Kidnava. Erai Erai Guarding Atang Singh Nava. Friends, let us come and dance. And Erai Erai Obang Apatanava. Friends, let us come and study in the school. So these four-line songs became the caption of the multilingual education in Sora area, and we contributed about 3 years in preparing the Sora books, and through linguistic survey and Professor Agnihotri, Minati Panda, and the state government of Odisha took a lot of interest in doing that. Today we are facing a lot of problems when multilingual education is pursuing the state governments to follow it. But that time there was a acceptance of multilingual education, tribal education, to which the state government was following with serenity. So that was the point. And in 1997 to 2010, I was more inclined to tribal education and then multilingual education with the national and global experts, and had a lot of dialogue with them, and I learned a lot of things. But my focus was on understanding the community, understanding the mind of the tribal teachers, the mind of the government, and to see that how the tribal language and culture and knowledge system can be imbibed into the state curriculum and the tribal curriculum itself, so that their knowledge, their wisdom, their values can be sustained, and it is for their land, language, and life. So my idea was that tribal people have a land called Saura land. Tribal people are identified as Saura people, and tribal people have a language that is called Sora language. So from that I found three words: land, language, and life. And these three words really fascinated to Professor Tobe Skutnab Kangas, and she told that it is an organic word that you have devised and learned from the tribal peoples. I said, yes, this is my findings, and this is my perception of looking at the tribal people while working on tribal education. And it is not just following the theories and methods that is devised by the people. In India, at least over last 30 years, only 3 to 4 people have worked on this, not much on theories and application. Ramakant, Minati, and me, Ajit Manti, and there are some other friends. But sincerely speaking, the work that we initiated with Minati and Ramakant is still it is unsurpassable, because of it was a real critical pedagogy started in Odisha in 1997. When it started, it really ignited the whole country over 2010. But now, after 2010, many states are coming to work on tribal education, but they are not getting success because of there are state restrictions. There are many challenges in the preparedness of the work. So there is a need for a political will. In Odisha, there were 35 members of legislative assemblies to whom I motivated them to work on tribal culture and the provision of tribal development in the Constitution of India. And there was a political will in the government of Odisha. Therefore, it was made successful. So this is the basics, and we took all the information. We did not translate a single word or line from the Odia language or the mainstream language and culture, but we recreated. We created a culturally responsive and culturally sensitive, culturally sensitive curriculum and instructional materials in 10 tribal languages. First of all, adopting the culture and language in classroom. So the community knowledge was much more important that for that, and the community was very much enthusiastic. And we found that after 25 years of introducing multilingual education in India, in Odisha, we found that the communities, those who are very much keen about conserving their language in school education and society and community and rites and rituals and festivals, are still surviving in Kemuchar, Sundargarh, Mayurbhanj, and Gajpati. And but the rest of the smaller tribal communities, those who are politically not aware, culturally not aware of their culture, are losing their ground on multilingual education. So it is a very vast work that we have done over the last 25 years. And now in Odisha, after leaving Odisha in 2012, I am engaged in Chhattisgarh, and I have taken 6 languages in Chhattisgarh, and now another 5 languages in Jharkhand. And therefore now in Odisha, in India, we have taken about 35 languages, but not like that of Odisha, where the community, government, teachers, and the academicians all are in a one stand. Our common aim to revitalize language, teach the children in their language, cognitively make them sound with their own cultural nuances. All these things are now missing from most of the multilingual education programs. So this is briefly about the things that I have written about 8 chapters. One chapter is about the problems and issues of tribal children in Odisha in first chapter. Second chapter, I have talked about the educational policies from 1966 till now, till 2012, till 2020, how the tribal education or the language in education program in marginalized communities are conceptualized, perceived, beginning from the Constitution of India to 2020. And you will be surprised to know that as though there are provisions for mother tongue education, tribal education, teaching children from class 1 to 3 or class 1 to 5, uh, most of the Indian states have not really taken care of it. That is one of the biggest maladies of Indian education system for the marginalized. This is chapter 2, and chapter 3 speaks of a transformative teacher training called Rupantar, that language and culture is the center in the learning of tribal children. So a transformative training was given where Minati Panda was pioneering the whole work, and our 160 teachers were trained of over 4 months, developing the primers and developing the teacher training module. And this training module, I think for the first time in India, such a critical pedagogy was adopted in Odisha, but we were instrumental. The real issues and challenges lies with the people, and we believe that according to Paulo Freire, where the problems and issues are there, it is the people who face the problem, who endure the problems and issues and challenges, they will solve the problem. And we were highly instrumental. We were sided. We were from the backside. We are helping them, and they were the key actors. The tribal teachers of Odisha were the key actors. They are nameless. They are not recognized, but their ideas have been generated over all parts of India because of their perseverance and their pains and their initiative to promote tribal education, despite there was a lot of resistance. Chapter 4 is about Erai Erai. Erai Erai means come in Saura, and a book was developed in Saura language. Its name was Erai Erai, and Ramakant, Minati, and me, we three people were engaged in developing the work with the 40 teachers. Out of that, 29 teachers were from Saura, and 11 teachers were from non-tribal, non-Saura. And over 2 years, we developed this primer, and this was the model for the whole state. And following that, we also developed another 6 tribal primers in 2003, from 99 to 2003. And this Saura primer was used in tribal area schools, and it was amazing to say that how the magic of mother tongue attracts both the male and female of the non-literate villages of Saura tribe. And they were coming to school and watching the classroom for half an hour, 1 hour, and they were astonishing that how their language has been put into a classroom. So these were the examples, and there are many such examples that once you adopt a unwritten language, unrecognized language, how people really react to that. That is a very big thing in our life, and also making a history by doing such things, because of thus putting the marginalizations in policies does not matter, does not help them unless it is articulated by somebody. And as language, culture, and education, as these three areas are most neglected areas in any of the countries of the world. So this is chapter 3, and Ramakant Agnihotri, with all these 40 teachers, was instrumental to bring out the knowledge and bring out the teaching methodology, applying the Chomskyan theory, the language principles, the principles of language equally shared in all the languages, one, and secondly, the contextual theory. So it is both universal and contextual. Those were applied in the Sora book. And then this is another. After that, we started expanding multilingual education in other languages. That is another chapter. Another chapter is multicultural education. Multicultural education is about the cultural construction of knowledge in the society uh, by the parents and the community for the children. That was one where the traditional games, storytelling, singing and dance, and art and craft, all these have highly cognitive abilities of children which were not exposed, which were not discussed, and it was only considered that classroom is the center for learning, but that was not. But all these all these knowledges like storytelling festival, traditional games have a high type of cognitive abilities embedded in their games and storytelling. So this is one, and this is called Srujan or the creativity. And also we applied thematic approach in schools, primary schools, that how the themes are important, a cultural theme is important to connect the different subjects in one common platform. For instance, language, mathematics, and environment science can be taught through a pond, through a tree, through a river, or through a village. Uh, and these are the some of the ideas that I generated, and also storytelling festival, and school museum. These are the two most important points that I mentioned. Now, Odisha government has opened 17 school museums in the district headquarters of Odisha. 17 district level school museums inspired by the MLE program in Odisha, and each museum has been given 1 crore rupees. So that is most important thing. So this is all about the tribal education program. And as regards to my work on folklore of the tribes, that is much more deeper than this tribal education, because of that is not intended for a structured pedagogy or something like that, but it has the liberty, the researcher, as a researcher, I have the liberty to foresee the folklore of the community, different tribal communities and non-tribal communities of Odisha, particularly Kalahandi and Koraput and Gajpati, to see that how a non-literate society maintain their culture through orality. And there is a proverb that where there is no written culture, people should continue to speak regularly to maintain their orality. In our India also, it is said that the Veda and the Vedangas had no script, and people were following a formula of Shruti and Sruti, based listening and memorization. The listening and memorization are two approaches to maintain oral tradition in the non-literate society. The whole world follows that, and India also followed the same thing, the Suti and Suti, for maintaining the oral knowledge to perpetuate from one generation to the other. But what is emerging in my part in understanding the society, that the formal psychology or the post and formal anthropology, which was the ideas of 19th century knowledge of Europe, which was considering human into a stratum, the civilized, barbarian, and savage, or the intelligent, idiot, and imbecile. In 20th century, the whole human society became so liberating that a non-literate person's knowledge is also respected, like like a, like in the knowledge of the person with written literature or written philosophy. So what did I learn from all this? I learned that experience, you see the environment, and you attach your sensibility with the environment around you. Then the environment and your society shapes your personality. And whatever you see, whatever is you feel and touch, your five senses, gives you a sense of experience, and that experience becomes knowledge, and that knowledge really helps you to understand your own world, and you construct your knowledge. So the places that I lived, how did I accommodate myself? I was not a liar up to 37 years of my life, because I was not facing any kind of artificial discussion like that of was taking in Bhubaneswar with some officials. So my life is two types of life. One is up to 37 years, I was all along a natural person when I came to Bhubaneswar, I learned how to talk with the people. I learned how I have to pretend to be happy with a person as though I am not happy with him. So these are the things that I learned from the city life. But I confessed myself in my Loka Loka book that I have two realms of life. One realms of life is folklore and my childhood and my family, my society, and my learning as a teacher. And when I came to Bhubaneswar, I became an administrator, and then I learnt a lot of diplomacy, lot of things. But my my upbringing up to 37 years in my village guided me to keep myself pure from all those duplicacies, all those hypocrisies, and maintain the worship of knowledge, culture, and education in Odisha. These are some of my thoughts that I presented before you. After that, also, I am still engaged in writing my work on folklore and also on multilingual education. This book is only one book that I have written. If I had time, I could have written many monographs and many books on multilingual education. The amount of knowledge that I have, experiential knowledge, practical knowledge, and applied knowledge, whatever that I have, and up to 2008, I had no exposure to the global experts of MLE. But after 2008, I got a lot of opportunity to meet with a lot of people on MLE and on all anthropology, also on folklore, on psychology. Many people have really inspired me to work, and I believe that Indian village is one, and in that Indian village is like a small university where you can get a lot of departments like linguistics, biology, chemistry, and language, literature, history, sociology, anthropology, everything. So it is to my point, my essence of telling is that people who survive in the lap of nature, connect their mind with the matter, and develop their cognition, and they survive with their innovations, and that really is full of thrill, full of challenges, and full of joys, and they express all those sorrows and joys in their oral narratives, and they try to release their tension. They try to be a part of oral history in their life. So there are many arts and symbols, art and craft. Also there are many places where the memory pillars of the ancestors and the deceased persons are there. So both in tangible and intangible heritage, human society always tried to be immortal through stone images, or through art and craft, or through oral tradition. So although India is divided into tribal and non-tribal, there are urban and rural, but looking the whole thing from Indian knowledge point of view, you will find that many stories and songs have got across 2,500 years. You will find the same motif that was told by Mahatma Buddha in Kalahandi and Koraput. You will find the same cultivation of paddy which was practiced during the Vedic period. And there are about 1500 words. Those words are used by the Vedic cultivators, and also now used by the agricultural farmers. There are connectivity between the Shastriya and Lokika, the classical and folk. But we people have three layers of life. One layers, the people who practice the knowledge never write it. Second, the people who write the knowledge never practice it. And beyond that, there is an international domain where we don't make a comparative study between the practice, between the Indian writing, and between the global writing. Therefore, most of the about 90% of the knowledges that is practiced by the people of India regarding water, regarding ponds, regarding rivers and mountains, regarding the values and ethics. Many things are not really regarding the customary laws, regarding culinary art, regarding material culture, performance. Most of the things are not really documented, and the universities are not really interested to, or they are constrained to adopt all these things, because of all those things should be a part of universal knowledge and university knowledge. All these things are in the universe, but not in the university. So I hope that in future, 21st century will be the century of the most marginalized people. Although there are many challenges and many hurdles are there, but if this world is of the people, by the people, and for the people, people will continue to find a way to survive their knowledge, survive their wisdom, and survive their life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahendra Bhai, for your deep and many-sided presentations. You have presented your two books. Now I invite Dr. Suresh Babu to kindly share your thoughts. So Dr. Suresh Babu and Professor Amanpreet Kaur, you can each take up to 10 to 15 minutes thinking together with the issues that Dr. Mishra has presented. So Dr. Suresh Babu, please.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Gudi, again. And also happy to listen to Dr. Mahendra Kumar Mishra and his two books. I'm sorry to say that I could not get any access to your book. Certainly, it inspires me to read it again. I will get it anyway.
I
My
have to
colleague,
send it to you,
yeah,
Suresh
yeah,
Babu. I will
yeah.
send it.
No, no, certainly, it actually inspired me to read your book seriously, right? So,
Yeah, sure,
with
sure.
that note, let me also just reflect on what you have shared with us. Yeah, so it's very interesting for a researcher like me who engages with the field of education and the world of students. It is very important to listen Dr. Mahendra and then the his sharing of his own lived experiences as a teacher as well as a uh, excellent scholar, right? So because most of his sharing with us is morely scholarly. It's not merely a just talks. I would say rich scholarly experiments he had. This also span into his own life. Perhaps when he was speaking about what he has been doing and when he was sharing his own experience, actually he was sharing his own life world. What
Yeah.
he as a child lived with the children in the tribal areas were populated by tribals, Adivasi groups, and then Dalits and Muslims. So it was a multicultural, most backward region in the state. And then he being an upper caste Brahmin, how he could. This is a very interesting and eye opener to understand how uh, this kind of an experiences also would actually deconstruct our way of looking at the caste and the caste dynamics, right? Because in the sense that the way sociologists try to understand, explain, and also keep on defending what caste system all about, there are different way of looking at the life world and also looking at the life world through the lens of as a human and how we approach the problems as a problem of um, human as a universal category, right? No matter whether we are from different social background, but there is a larger concern as humans. I would find it that most of his expressions, and perhaps I also anticipate the fact that his writings also would underline what is the meaning of human and with the people and those who are actually suffering because of not because of not because of their problems. Largely, this is the problems of our society. Therefore, some of his reflections would also tell us that um, there is an urgent need to intervene in some of the world of the people, because when society is um, asymmetrical, and also development of the post-colonial society has not um, made any major changes in the life of the people. At the same time, it also deepened the inequality. The recent research, at micro level research, also would tell us that the inequality is widening, and then especially among the most marginalized communities, their life is also going to be much more complicated because of the globalization processes. So, in this context, in the later stage of Dr. Mahendra Kumar's reflections would also give to give a signal that what is the role of the state, and how citizens like us or educationalists us should be seriously considering the role of the state, and how what extent we can also contribute to the qualitative change in the life of the tribal communities. There are two strands in his reflection. One with regard to his earlier life and as a teacher whose experiences with the children in the tribal settlements. And the second phase goes on to explain he as an administrator, how he could interact with, could get access to a number of scholars he was referring, for example, Agni Kotri, Ajit Mohandi, Ramakant, my own colleague Minadi Panda, and so on and so forth. Also given an impression that he was in conversation with a, a number of scholars. They are excellent in this field of multilingual education. Although I have not much gone to the details of multilingual education, so therefore may not be possible to comment on anything on authentically. But when it comes to the question of multilingual education, certainly Indian society is a multilingual. Therefore, this question of multilingual education becomes very important. But when it comes to serious concern with regard to the policy framing and the developmental issues of the tribal children, multilingual education, especially on the question of mother tongue, becomes very, very problematic. Perhaps that is the area where some of their interventions with Professor Ajit Mohandi and Meenadi Panda, they have started with a new project for multilingual education in Orissa with the support of the international agencies and government of Orissa. Certainly, I am slightly aware about the fact that how they have conducted these projects and the feedback we got it. Certainly, it is also illuminatory for many researchers to understand how a very imaginative project they could identify and execute it successfully. And also, he is also of the view that some of their experiment, especially the multilingual educational projects, was in real terms was a critical pedagogy. So yeah, it is quite moving to understand how this particular project is to be seen as a critical pedagogy. So he has some more explanation to this, in the sense that how the training of the teachers, focusing on the tribal teachers, and then train them to be uh, to to approach the educational system differently, and adapt the multilingual project so that it can connect with the life of the children, so that it become more effective in terms of the formal teaching and learning. Um, uh, so at the end, I would summarize with some maybe some critical thought in this aspect is that when it comes to the multilingual education, the certainly multilingual education is not talking about a language per se. It's also more interdisciplinary in in terms of how we approach the problem in the field of teaching and learning. And also it's slightly complicated in terms of how we see as a reformist strategy in the field of formal schooling. And because some of my students research work, those who working under my guidance for their doctoral programs, they also encounter some of these issues in their field, as well as also they were sharing with me. One of my student did a study in Orissa, as also another student did a study in Ladakh. So some of these their own experiences as a researcher from the field also give a new direction to understand the policies and their implication in the life of the students. And then I was also listening some of the views, some of the tensions coming from the KIS or ISA also, right? So one of the major concern perhaps to look at how although the policy was, the intention of the policy was good, but when it was implemented and then tried to evaluate and sustainability of these projects are concerned, they could not yield much in terms of to think about how the multilingual education can be sustained. Because when it comes to always at the question of multilingual, our focus was more on tribal children. What about then other children, right? And then second one, the state has certainly celebrated this idea of a multilingual, but then they should have been cut across all the social groups, right? And then when it comes to mother tongue, largely the tribal children were forced to learn Odia than their own mother tongue. Say, because mother tongue in terms of political economy certainly is a particular community has a very less number. So when they start learning their own language, this also reduces their own capability to go out and understand other dynamics and other cultures, so on and so forth. Therefore, um, one keeps on learning. Certainly, mother tongue is very important at the initial stage. Some of the study would show that gradually, when the students move from the primary school to the higher studies, there is a cultural process happening in terms of when they think about their own prosperity, when they think about higher education. Probably these students were attracted to not their mother tongue, not the state, perhaps to English language, right? So English becomes a more ideological in terms of how it influences the life field of the children, especially the tribal children. And some of the tribal activists also say that our children should also learn English. By this, we should be stopping the possibility of learning English, and why we should be focusing only the mother tongue. Therefore, the question of multilingual needs to be um, uh, to be to be seen in a different lens, not in terms of just more as a policy or as a reformed strategy, but also looking at the larger cultural context in which India as a society to be seen in the future, what extent this multicultural ideas, in a multicultural society can be sustained. That could be one of the major project we in the future, we if at all we think about multicultural societies, considering the multilingual educational practices in the future. So there are certain limitations in terms of implementing it. Dr. Mahendra Kumar also highlighted what are the perhaps we listen to him what are the limitations of this project, because he himself was involved and actively participated in the implementation of the project. If I say something like that I found it, his presentation is more of an introspection, in the sense that how an outsider would look at the world of the tribal world, and then gradually who would see as a participant, part of the community, and see the life world differently and how it shaped him. Therefore, it's largely, I would see more of a introspection. But I would perhaps I would rather provoke him to see that Why don't you see the contradiction as well? And this contradiction is also very important. Perhaps the the communities do not have a language to articulate that contradiction, right? Or perhaps we may not have a, but even if they articulate, we may not be understanding what kind of articulation they are also making over a period of time, right? Therefore, introspection may be very interesting, but at the same time, how these contradictions can also be understood differently in terms of articulating. Therefore, language becomes very important. And the second one is that this is also troublesome to see the school language and the home language, right? And this is a very clear, there is very clear direction in from an educational theoretical point of view to see that how these tensions are also now somehow mediated through other mechanisms. For example, the political economy of education is now changing all over the world. The old world society is India, and the new market is also coming into the educational field. So look at the private sector, for instance, how these private sector expand the outreach in the rural areas, even also coming to, I saw even the tribal regions also private sector is growing, right? Low cost private schools, and what are the major attraction of the schools and how they are going to make it a marketably meaningful project in the years to come. I perhaps also started to see that it may not be a mother tongue, it may not be multilingual, perhaps it's now coming into English language, right? Some of our studies also very clearly show that there is a great demand for English language even in the rural areas. It is also creeping into the tribal regions. Tribal leaders also try articulating that their children also should study language. When you look at the larger perspective of this, the political dynamics of education on the question of language, how do you see, how do we sort it out these problems of school language and the home language, and what are the aspirations of the children when they look at their own future, or a community look at their own future? Perhaps these languages are not going to be at all useful to shape their career in the later stage, because we all are career oriented, right? Education becomes more career oriented that than looking at the creative thinking and how we develop our own intellectual capability to see the other fellow being, right? So therefore, these concerns are also getting into the lifehold of the tribal communities. And then to end with my own thinking is that critical pedagogy, if at all we see through the lens of a project, may be a pragmatic idea, right? And that too through multilingual education, giving training to teachers to be sensitive to teach the children on mother tongue. That may be one dynamics to, or one direction to understand how pragmatically critical pedagogy is possible. But when you look at the broader structuring and understanding and deeper meaning of critical pedagogy, this should have been come from a different direction altogether. To that extent, how do you see today the critical pedagogy in the light of your own experiment on the multilingual education, as well as your own experiences, your own life experiences with the children in the tribal landscape? Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh Babu. And yes, so exploring the relationship between multilingual education and critical pedagogy. Now, Professor Amanpreet Kaur, please.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I congratulate to Mahendra Kumar ji and Dr. Suresh Babu for such a wonderful, uh, insights. I want to admit to one thing. I am not a scholar of folklore studies or education, but I definitely share some of my observations on the basis of what Mahendra Kumarji shared with us. What I like most in the beginning, like This all.
One request, Professor Amanpreet, if it is
Yes.
okay, you can put your video on. Later on, we would put it. People
Okay,
can-
no,
yeah.
no issue, no issue, no issue.
Thank
So, what I like most in the beginning, the main sutra shared by, it's about land, language, and life. And I felt it's a like multidisciplinary, understanding of what we call about Mr. Ji, Mahendra Ji started this talk with his biographical thing, and then actually I was thinking of he shared some of the I 1 minute. One minute, I just note down. He started. I feel these both two books are connected. I'm not taking in a different way. He started from this one self experience, as childhood memories, and how these childhood memories struggle, uh, you know, comes like become a struggle. And because when we are thinking of our surroundings as child, and when he talked about his own family, like already Suresh Babu sir mentioned, sometimes we had some notions in our mind, how Brahmins are thinking about the our like other castes or the, but it's very interesting to me the way he's looking at his surroundings, the way he's studying with the students, and how he's observing. This is how we are constructing, what is important in this talk, the way we are constructing, the way we are looking at our world. Second thing, what I feel like, it's started from self struggle. Then this self struggle. 1 minute. This struggle gives, when you are able to understand the our system, then it gives you some strength, and here society comes. Okay, you are looking at your society, how your society works, how different part of the society are behaving. Either they are the teachers, either they are your neighbors, either they are your students, those who are your surrounding, and then when you are looking at your society, and here that a new beginning start is like a teacher. Okay, what I am thinking of, the way Mahendra ji share with us. And when you are a teacher, you are looking the society in a different way. Here your role is not like just to teach something. Here your role is like how you can serve your society, because as teacher, if you are nourishing your students and you are not able to understand where are the problems, you cannot help them. And uh, what I feel, when you are trying to serve your society, then you are trying to understand what are the policies of the states. It's very interestingly mentioned, what are the policies for schools, what are the policies for these tribal communities. And here the very interesting fact I felt, when you are able to understand the strategies of the state. Okay, and what interesting to me, it's not only for tribal communities. when I correlate it with my own land, because we don't have any experience like it, we don't have any tribal communities, and nowadays what we are feeling, we are imposing other language on our students. Schools are situated in the rural area of Punjab, where Punjabi is their own language, okay, and you are imposing other language. What kind of student you are, actually, what kind of knowledge you are, giving to them? I was correlating in that way. And these strategies, actually, we need to question as teachers. We need to, create something as a teaching community. We have to we have to raise our voice in a way so that we can create pressure on the state. And here, when in the whole discourse, we are talking about the students, okay. Why we are talking about the students? Because in the beginning, when we talk about so you mentioned soil and seed. The interesting fact is, many a times we are talking about our soil, and many a time we are talking about the seed. We are not connecting, because our students, that is a nursery, okay. And if we are not connecting both, we can't make them change, okay. We cannot create something which we want to create. And here, the what we want, because I'm a student of religious studies also. I'm a student of I feel like something spirituality. Why knowledge is required? Knowledge is required for salvation, okay. Salvation is not like something is from after dying, we are not getting. But salvation is when you are able to understand your own self, when you are able to understand what is going around, what is happening, and what are doing with us. So actually, I think in that way. This talk, both the it's a said really, it is a self exploration. The way as teacher Dr. Mahendra Kumarji, look at the word and how he want to change through his writings. And what interesting thing to me, generally as a student of literature, when I studied folklore and I studied culture, either we have the understanding of theoretical models, or we have the understanding of practical things. What is lacking, that is the application part. uh, for me, if we are correlating three, then we can actually able to understand, uh, how, because folklore is not such a simple thing. And when we are correlating folklore, culture, language, and education, actually we are trying to understand the holistic aspect of our life. Language is itself our identity, and without culture, we cannot, each language, when we are talking about multilingualism, we have to understand each language is showing one culture's identity. And when we are clubbing different cultures' identities, we are able to understand how different people thinks, not only differently, even in the same way. And one more thing I want to add, uh, through education, one can create that atmosphere which can create a new society. What is lacking, even when I look at my own state, when I look at my own state's education system, I felt so happy when Sir was talking about when he was correlating. Sometimes we are giving theoretical things. We are not correlating with our day-to-day life. I still remember there are people in Punjabi who who to collect that data, folkloric data, they visited you know uh, all the premises of Punjab, and when they were talking about something, they had something. And nowadays, when we are talking about culture, when we are talking about education, when we are talking about even sometimes we are not able to differentiate how culture is different from folklore, how they are connected, and what is the role of language in both of them. And that one more thing I want to add, and what where I feel we can think this discourse in a different way. This is not only at tribal level. We have to think that may be our area of study, and because I am not familiar with that kind of studies, and this is my observation. When we are this is something like case studies. We can use such case studies, and on the basis of that we can provide something which can be useful for the entire world. I once again congratulate to both of Dr. Suresh Babuji and Mahindra Kumarji, and I wish next time when I get the books, and then I may able to reflect actually what is in that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sat Sri Akal. Very, very deep reflections. And you are so insightful that the significance of this work is for all realms of our human experience. And today, the crisis of language, the death of language, in fact, and that is a critical challenge. Therefore, multilingual education is for all of us, not only for the tribal children. Thank you. So we are enriched by the presence of many friends with us. Dr. Betty Govindan. So she's a very deep thinker, writer from South Africa. Professor Sarthik Bag. And one thing Dr. Mishra said is that 21st century is the century of the marginalized, how significant it is. And in a sense that we are all marginalized if we look at if we look at and since since Professor Kaur told about spiritual in such creative way, and what is marginalized is our spiritual self, isn't it? And that self which wants to be connected, because there is a inherent vastness in all of us. In fact, what Dr. Misra writes in that workshop, when Professor Agnihotri is doing the workshop, that Odia language, Telugu language, Sora language, English language, the structuring, once we see that no language is inferior or superior, and it is part of a universal grammar, isn't it? And that is the spiritual. But unfortunately, because of many constraints, what Dr. Suresh Babu said, that what about aspiration? Yes, but that aspirational question is better facilitated. In fact, in the book also, Dr. Mishra addresses this question, because the tribal teachers themselves were not initially very enthusiastic about teaching in tribal language, as tribal politicians also. But once they became part of the process, we could feel that one is to realize our career option, our ability to think is better nurtured in our early years through our mother language education. So let us hear some more reflections. So Dr. Betty Govindan, please. And after that, Professor Sarthik Bag and our other friends, please. Yes, Dr. Betty Govindan, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Giri. I am sorry my video is not coming on, but I'll just share a few thoughts Thank you so much for this topic. I am sorry I came in late, but I really am thankful for the discussion and the thoughts that and the critique that was generated. My own experience largely of being in India was that I was really thankful and impressed at at the multilingual nature of the society. I felt that it really taught us a great deal to learn from. And I've also traveled in some other parts of Africa. And I was really touched by the way in which English, which has become the universal means of exchange, we at this moment are also exchanging in English. Uh, and yet, alongside that, has been all the different languages, the local languages that are also given value and worth. In fact, this is exactly what Ngugi wa Thiong'o said when he was talking about decolonizing ourselves and decolonizing our pedagogy. And I always thought of the amazing example that he set of actually writing in the local languages. And of course, if it needs to be translated, that is fine. But to write and think in one's local language. And he also taught us that language is just not a means of communication. It's not a means of exchange. Language is also about how you think. It's also about the embedded feelings, the primeval feelings, and the philosophical feelings that we are longing to express. And of course, some of that is expressed in language and so much in silence. And how do we try to balance the two and measure them? I think that this topic is a very important one, simply because in South Africa since 1994, we've been speaking a lot about reclaiming indigenous languages, and I've been to a First Nations conference in India myself at New Delhi, at Chotro, and the whole question of reclaiming indigenous languages. I've been to Canada, to New Zealand, to Australia, and the political imperative of reclaiming indigenous languages is a very, very important and compelling one. And we have to ask, and this is a challenge to me in South Africa as a person working in critical pedagogy, and it's a challenge to all of us in our different locations. How do we address the imbalance in our local context? You've touched on this in some ways. How do we address the imbalance? Yes, of the colonial, post-colonial heritage, but how do we address the imbalance in our societies? In South Africa, we speak a lot about valuing indigenous knowledges and indigenous languages, but not enough, not enough resources. Our universities, our schools are not giving enough attention. We're all complicit in this. So we have the theory, but we have a way to go in trying to value indigenous knowledges. Some of this work is being done in oral history research and tapping into and exposing local languages. But often we have outsiders coming to do our oral history. But what about us understanding our oral histories, our local histories, all that is expressed in indigenous languages, in the vernacular? And how do we bring the vernacular not from as a language of the evening, but to the language of the day? And this is, for me, the great challenge. How do we put resources at national and international level to leveling the playing fields so that in any kind of discourse that we might have at an international level, how do we listen to the other languages that have been marginalized? And this is part of building um, united world, united society. It's part of overcoming our divided society. Gandhi was one of those who constantly encouraged the use of indigenous languages, of local languages, of using the vernacular. And for me, this is part of the way in which knowledge is created, knowledge is retrieved, knowledge is created and recreated, and how we engage in this exchange. This is at the heart of our critical pedagogy. It is a question of power. And you will recall that Frantz Fanon was talking about nervous conditions and the way in which we have, we find ourselves in tension between what the colonizer has given us and what we ourselves bring to the table. And this kind of dichotomy results in nervous conditions. And nervous conditions continues to this day. It's not just something that happened during colonialism and during the early years of independence. How do we engage in really reclaiming our identity, our dignity? And for me, this is the challenge that is hard to confront, but which is real. God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Betty Govindan, and very insightful, and especially linking South Africa to India is so important in terms of struggle and also the liberatory dynamic. So, Professor Sarthik Bag, after Professor Sarthik Bag, I will request Roy to share his view. Dr. Suresh Babu will be 5 p.m. But we will continue our discussion a little more. We have other friends who will hear from. So, Professor Sarthik Bag, please.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Please, Professor Bag.
Yes, I'm there, sir. Am I audible to you?
Please open your video, please. We would
Okay.
like to see.
Thank you,
Uh,
sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Uh, yes, for the first, I missed I missed the first 10-15 minutes of Dr. Mohinder Kumar's presentation about the book. But rest of the presentation which I attended and listened to him was quite fascinating for me. And uh, the the important thing actually which I find in the book about the author, that he's trying to it is all about the experiences that he has gathered from the ground, working with the tribals on tribal folklore. And so 2 3 point which I thought I should speak on. uh, uh, when it comes to tribal education and uh, multilingual education, actually there is a big challenge, because this is the time of globalization. So we need to integrate our society also. We need to integrate different section of the society. So the idea of mainstreaming the tribal here I come across in the presentation, and the challenges that lies ahead. So one challenge I think when he talked about folklore, which is based on orality. So whether the state has actually worked on compiling the folklore into a written tradition, or any scholar, any educationist has tried his or her bit to compile the folklore in a written tradition, uh, which can be further followed in future, because orality is important, and orality also has limitation. So if you can have a very concrete foundation of a written tradition of folklore,
That will a big contribution for the government and for the people who are working on it. Uh, because to me, mainstreaming is very important. Whether education for tribal in tribal language is an issue at all. What I feel is that we need to mainstream the tribal language into overall Odia language, because why we talk of a different tribal language? Why not mix the tribal language with the vocabulary of mainstream Odia language? So that will also be one way out to go for a smooth multilingual education in the context of Odisha. I'm very happy that he has actually studied about the tribal folklore from Koraput and Kalahandi. That is one area very rich uh, in tribal folklore and so much. So, so I would like to go through the books which is available on Amazon also. So this is what I wanted to say, because I do not have any prior access to or information about the book. So just I listened to his presentation, and it was very good work. And congratulations to the author, Dr. Mohan Kumar, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Professor Bag teaches political science at Babasaheb University, Lucknow, Central University. Now, Mahendra Bhai, please.
Yeah. So it is a very good day for me. बोल समस्या नहीं है. It is a very good day for me to be listened about myself by three prominent professors and thinkers. Um, as regards to there are many questions that have cropped up from the speech of Suresh Babu and Ramanpreet Kaur ji and Betty Govindran and Satvik Bag. I think that all of us are in the same boat, one way or the other, thinking about the marginalized people, the SC, ST, Muslims, Dalits, and women. And the place from where I belong to are full of such issues and discriminations, issues of discriminations, uh, poverty, natural calamity, drought, lack of education, lack of higher education, and so many things, and social injustice. Kishan Patnaik was uh, the pioneer to highlight Kalahandi on these issues. So my whole perception and my whole upbringing from such a land with a consciousness of with a social consciousness of articulating those miseries and the problems of the local reality has been first of all expressed in my folklore studies. Kisan Patnaik tempted me. He told me to work on people's knowledge and culture, then to study the written Odia literature. That is one thing. So I plugged into the folklore studies for over 40 years till now, and about 25 years on multilingual education. So, being a government officer in Odisha, uh, how I could have taken this work into the policy and programs with the politicians and bureaucrats, you must be understanding the whole issue. Perhaps I was argumentative with all humbleness, like adopting Gandhian approach, mentioning the constitution and the policies of education for the Dalits and tribals and women and Muslims also, because of money was coming for them, but that was not going to the field. And I was advocating and fighting for all those people, and I was putting all the tribal coordinators, minority education coordinators for these four areas In 30 districts, 60 people were engaged for gender and tribal, Dalit and Muslim. You will never find a state in India where 60 people are working for their education. This is one. Secondly, there is a lot of things to to establish in the government system because of the question of hegemony and also the liberation. These two things have to be understood by a person working in the government system. And in the government system, people are very uncritical about their socio-cultural role or the idea to fight for the most downtrodden people. In that case, whether Gandhi, Lohia, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, whatever they has told or imagined about India is very quite unintelligible, or also not really properly intensively articulated in their either thought or action. Then in such a cases, if a small person like me, being the assistant director of one education department in the state, dare to do all these things at the cost of my own peace and time and my own personal life, it was a loving struggle for me. And therefore, what Suresh Babu is telling about how to how the tribal people's aspiration can be understood from critical pedagogy, and I tried my best to imbibe critical pedagogy among the tribes. Therefore, the community and the teachers came out for their own identity, own knowledge, own language, and own land, and own education. That is one. So, but it is an initiation of last 30 years. So that 30 years is the foundation. But now I must confess that whatever I started with the 200 tribal teachers and many non-tribal people, most of the scheduled caste people of Koraput and Kalahandi are very good in speaking and understanding of tribal languages. Therefore, the SC and ST are not to be seen separately from a land. They are highly connected in respect of economy and language and sharing of cultural values. This is one. And in the now it is in the broader sense you find that there is a mix up of ideologies, mix up of policies, where you will not really able to articulate those policies into action in the field. That is another challenge for any officers, and who are not daring to do all these things, who have not understood the nuances of Indian politics, Indian culture, Indian language, and Indian epistemology, and also finally to understand the Indian the peripheral people's pains. It is very difficult to work on this. I am thankful to Suresh Babu, and this dialogue will continue with you. I have got your email, everybody's email. I will try to send some materials on that. Then thanks to Ramanpreet Kaur जी, एंड आपने मेरे ऊपर जो कहा बहुत सच ही कहा, और इतना गहराई से मेरे को आपने सुना, और you have explored me, understood me from my childhood, and the way people look at the self with the others, like Dalit, Muslim, and Adivasis, and the poor villagers. So you are correct that I constructed my own way of life, my aims of life through my childhood, and that is really true. And I congratulate you. I am indebted to you because you have touched my heart through your languages, and you are a folklore scholar. Therefore, I would like to send some books to you on my folklore studies in Odisha. Then Betty Govindan has given a very good, profound ideas about the colonization. I have read the book of Walter Rodney, and also some works of South Africa, which Tobes Kutnavkanga has given to me. And there are in Kenya and also from South African point of view, I have also gone through the work of the Cry the Beloved Country, the novel on South Africa. So we are very close to the culture of South Africa in respect of liberating the human society like that of India. So we share our common thoughts in South Africa and India, and Gandhi is a connecting point for that. And Satik Bagh has told about the mainstreaming. Yes, mainstreaming is highly essential. Unless there is a mainstreaming, uh, the tribal and the Dalits will never be able to come forward, and they cannot be a piece of museum by restoring their songs and dance and music and literature and language in their own village to be happy, to keep happy to the others who study them. This is not the ethics of research. Our ethics of research should, wherever we have worked for the tribals and got a PhD for them, we must also be a philanthropist to some extent, whatever. And I have dedicated whole of my work for Kalahandi and Koraput and Bastar. But it was my own decision to take up, like what Raman Preet Kaur ji said. It was something else. It is not a matter of job, or it is not a matter of working as the assistant director of a government. That is not the point. No assistant directors before me or after me have been able to understand the whole nuances of these problems and challenges of the tribal or the Dalits or the gender communities of Odisha. So I will also say, Mr. Bagh, there are many people in Odisha across the state have have written a lot of books on their local culture, local folklore in Odia language, also in English languages. So sometime, if I find time, I can give you some information about the folklore that has been collected by the local researchers, most particularly lecturers and teachers of the locality, and I will highlight those things before you. Thanks to Professor Anant Kumar Giri, who has been an inspiration for me all along over the last 35 years, and I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot from him because he is an anthropologist, and he has a global access. He has got immigration for all the countries. So the kind of knowledge that he has about the whole globe is quite not possible for others to understand, that a practical experience that he has gained. So I always admired Dr. Anant Kumar Giri for his inspiration, and for his scolding to me because of I am a lazy person, and also lazy and busy both. And in spite of that, when he asked me to talk about these two books, I took interest in this, and I'm really very happy to see the reflective persons from across the globe to interact on my work. And my work is a very small work. I don't know whether this work will be disseminated or forgotten forgotten in future time to come. That does not matter. But I believe that I have done my justice to my locality, my people, and my state and my country by doing this much of work on folklore and multilingual education. Now, 35 lakhs children are having their education in mother tongue. But to answer Suresh Babu and Satik Bagh, I must say that the persons who are studying in the multilingual schools are doing better in Adarsh Vidyalaya, going to Navodaya Vidyalaya, and they are much more intelligent and much more intellectually better than the monolingual students studying in the schools. So and also the knowledge they get from their society and community is embedded with their culture and education and wisdom and cognition. Therefore, I have seen that how the students of multilingual education have done better in higher education. Thank you very much for this. And those who are interested to get my Oriya books, I can send the soft copy because of it is available with me. And as regards to English book, if you can write to me your address, postal address, I will try to send the books to you. Thank you very much for this good function and good discussion. Thank you, Professor Anant Kumar Giri, Sartik Bang, and Betty Govindan and Suresh Babu. I hope to meet you again and again in this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahendra Bhai and friends. Mahendra Bhai, we would continue our conversation for another 10-15 minutes because we have other friends, we would listen to them.
Sure, sir.
So now I request Makaradhwaj,
तुम रात को जाओगे?
Mashu, Gyan Luigi, Minati, Jainaran Bhai, and other friends. So please share your thoughts. So Makaradhwaj, please. And when you say, you can open your video if it is convenient, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to give my reflection on this particular discussion, the importance of the folklore or the based on the folk life of the people. What I feel that the importance of obviously the importance and the scope is a debatable. The scope of the folklore or the folk life based on the folk life of the tribal community in particular. It's a subject of actually investigation or debate. But if we see in the present era of a knowledge society, the world order also shaped by the knowledge. So in this context, it is in this context, the people's knowledge, people's experience based on their experience, based on their culture, the people's knowledge, and the knowledge is very important at the moment. Now, when as Professor Sartibal also highlighted the mainstreaming, the importance of to mainstreaming the marginalized community, the knowledge of this marginalized community, it is also an opportunity to localize the local knowledge and to reach out this folklore or folk life of the tribal community. So, but importance thing is little you need to also look after to take into consideration that the scope of the local knowledge, to what extent this knowledge will help the local community. That is also very important aspect that we need to consideration. So therefore, but one thing, based on my field work, when I was doing my field work in Kalahandi district, I also observed that the tribal communities, they are also nowadays they are not interacting with their local language. So somehow, to one way or another, it's also the language their indigenous knowledge or the language particularly, they are not they're gradually they're not interacting with that particular local language. So it's an important debate, and it's Professor Dr. Mahendra Kumar Mishra sir's the writing is very important, and he's very important in this context, and I hope this knowledge or the folk life also will likely to be a significant contributor in this context. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now,
Yes, sir.
Professor Manbur, please. Masoor Bhai, please be quick. Okay, he is taking some time. Then Minati, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you, Anant Bhai. Congratulations to Mahendra sir for releasing of these two very important book. I mean, I'm enriched by the discussion what I have been listening last 2 hours. So I have a few short queries regarding that book. I received the book, but I have not read the full book. I must confess, I read few pages only. So just I want to know from Mahendra sir, like no, he was telling that he grew up with the he went to the schools with the tribal children, Dalits and Muslims. I mean, and he was from a Brahmin family. So it is very much. It's very much visible the social conditioning, the environment shaped his thought. But apart from that, what type of pressure did he feel from his family, or being a Brahmin, from a Brahmin family? I mean, he did not have any options to do that. Whether the family accepted that very happily, or so there was no way, and you have to go to that school like that, because that is one small thing. Just I want to know. The thing is, um, do folklore have any disadvantages? I mean, which you would like to recommend, that you consider these are the disadvantages, and it should be removed with, interacting with each other in another language or in English, like that. That is the second query. And third thing, it is just a um, opinion. When he was talking about the 37 years old, he was natural, and after that he has to be, when he was an administrator, and he has to be a little bit means no. So, but what I want to add to this is, our natural self actually remains what we are brought up with. But when we come to it, is be it a professional stage, or be it like when we grow up in different conditioning system, social system, I should say that that is the mask we all wear, because what we do outside we are not, but that what we are brought up with, that remains with us intact. That is our natural self. So that I just wanted to add that. As the debate is going on about the aspiration and the what the mainstream language, the things will be like that. Even I just many times it is ironic that I cannot think clearly which one is the right way that the approach should be. Mother tongue is okay, but we also see when that we are not well versed with English, or the students who are not well versed, they remain in a little bit depend on like something somebody has to translate, or you are not access to, not able to understand the way that the people who has studied in English medium, so that, but the thinking, all these things remains. No, what you are brought up with, which language you always think in that language the best. That is of course true. And I wanted to know these two queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Minati. Now, Professor Masoor, please.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I am very grateful to the Giri sir and Minati and their team, who are organizing such seminars, such webinars from time to time, and give us an opportunity to listen to great writers, thinkers. And among such thinkers, today we had one folklorist, esteemed folklorist, Mr. Kumar. Actually, you see, as far the language is concerned, all languages have sprung from one and the same language. All languages are branches of some great, you can say the mother language that we call some language. But the human wisdom is scattered. Human wisdom is distributed into different languages. You see, what we call folk wisdom. The folk wisdom present in one language may not be necessarily present in another language. But God has given us, the nature has given us the ability to translate things, to interpret things, and to connect between different ethnic groups and linguistic groups However, you see, the study that the esteemed scholar has carried out has its own importance because it speaks of his interest on the one hand, and it speaks of his, you see, concern for communities, as you call it or they call it, marginalized. Now, as Giri sir has already commented, that everybody is marginalized in his own way or her own way. So this today's discussion has given us an opportunity to, you see, on the one hand, we have our own, say, what we call mother tongue or mother language. But you know, in modern times, the concept of mother tongue has undergone a very major change, drastic change. What is your mother tongue? It's very difficult to decide nowadays somebody's mother tongue because the onslaught of modernization has compelled human life to adopt to new things, to diversities. So diversities we have to take under consideration when we speak of a particular tongue. But on our instinctive level, or we can say on our level of perception, some tongue, some language has to be your basic language, so that through that language, you can construct your knowledge further. You see, sometimes what you cannot understand through English or some other foreign language, you can understand it only through your mother tongue. And that concept, that understanding can become a vehicle to understand further things, to understand broader world. As somebody in the seminar said that mainstream and globalization, you see, we cannot deny that. That is a fact. But it is only your mother tongue, or you can say the first language, that enables you to dialogue with other languages, to dialogue with other speakers of the other languages of the world. So if we take the study, the book of the esteemed speaker, Lok Alok, or Iri, as they call it, it has its own importance because it is not actually only about languages. It's actually about a particular community. So how that community experiences life. You see, in my childhood, as I am from Kashmir, in my childhood, I didn't know any language other than my mother tongue language, that is Kashmiri. And I still remember that as a part of folklore, I can say, folk wisdom, my village had a special, you see, wisdom, which was quite different than other. Every tree had its own name. They would, as we name persons, they would name trees, especially the walnut trees there, because we have plenty of it. And they would also name, you see, animals, cows and bulls. They had every cow and every bull had a particular name. And I am still thrilled with the names of flowers and berries. You can see the fruit, natural fruit, berries around my village and in my village. So as the speaker has told us that he has discussed land, language, and life. This is very interesting, that how we connect language with a particular piece of land, with a particular chunk of land, and the the wisdom, or you can say the knowledge that we gain by that connection, that enables us to connect ourselves to the international communities, international human, you see, brotherhood and human community. So I think both of the concepts are equally important. The mother tongue as well as the lingua franca, or you can say the world over language as it is now English nowadays, or for that matter maybe Arabic in some area, or maybe Chinese in some area. But as human life is very complex, we can't be contented with one or only one language. We have to make excursions into other, you see, languages to understand the world and to understand the other communities of the world. So I am thankful to all of you for giving me a chance to embark on such a very rich topic. Thank you, sir. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Sukriya, Sukran.
Okay, sir.
So now, Jainaran Bhai, please. Jainaran not here. So now, Gyan Luigi, please. Gyan Luigi.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Well, it was very interesting, very rich. I was really very interested in all the contributions and the expositions. I am meditating on the different contents. I have no particular observations because, well, in the past I have studied something about the problem of the colonization, which can happen on the colonized countries, and of course also on the territory of Odisha through Sanskrit, for instance, within a sort of internal colonization, and through English, through an external colonization. For instance, Chittaranjan Das speaks about these problems, both aspects of colonization of a language and of a culture, and in his writings, and he makes very, very interesting observations on which, of course, it always deserves to be meditated on. And well, therefore, I have taken much profit from this session, and I thank you very much. It was really very interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gyan. As a philosopher, Gyan, would you share one or two lines about this methodology? Mahendra Bhai has used a very creative method of memory, that how it is not just chronological, and the way memory structures our narration.
Yes, well, there are, but it is a little bit different in this case. The question of the mnemotechnic in Western countries, it is a little bit different from as orientation, as way of proceeding. It is rather a way which was introduced by Cicero in Rome, on the way in which we can not only narrate, but also really have in the memory the part of a work, for instance, and the part of a written work, I mean. And but it is a little bit different from these. Of course, one could try to compare the two methods, and I think this comparison would be fruitful. Cicero rather deals with this subject in order to give pieces of advice to the orators in order that they can memorize their discourses in the public. But anyway, the general method of composing, dividing, and then recomposing a literary work in order to have it fixed in the memories, it has similarities, yes, to this, to the question which were dealt with today. Yes, I think that we could find a path in order to make a fruitful comparison of these methods. I think yes. Yes.
Thank you, mucho gracias. Yeah. So, Mahendra bhai, quickly, would you kindly share some thoughts on the question?
Yeah. Um, um, all these are the reflections of my thought and my speech made by the professors and the knowledge seekers. And as regards to Minati's question, I did not feel any. I did not get any. Sorry, yeah, I did not get any resistance from my family because of my my father and mother both were very much popular in the whole village to propagate education. That is one point. Therefore, they were respected, and I was the son of a teacher, so I was getting good attention by the elders and the younger friends. Second one is folklore. There are good things and bad things in folklore, but that value systems is determined whether the national values will be reflected in folklore or the folklore will reflect their own culture. That is the wisdom and the freedom of the people who create folklore. We as a scholar, we pick up the ideas that which is based on ahimsa, this non-violence and truth, the folklore of non-violence and truth, and folklore of vegetarian and non-vegetarian. It all depends upon the social and cultural context of the people. So folklore is a blend of the both. There are many blind beliefs also. There are many counter hegemonic actions also. So folklore is a blend of the collective memory of the people through which they have experienced in their life their sorrows and their struggles of life and their enjoyment of life. And as regards to my two lives, one is in Kalahandi, in my own village over 37 years, and coming to Bhubaneswar, coming to the state capital to work with the complexities of official culture and political culture. How did I accommodate myself? Initially, it was a suffering for me, but as Minati told that man has a nature, and whether I am good or bad, that does not matter. But my professionalism and my self defense and my self exposure, my performance, all these things are the mixture of a work that I came across. So it was not a easy thing, or it was not a difficult thing. A man has the ability to adapt and accommodate himself or herself in a new situation, and that adaptability comes from within. Therefore, but I mentioned all those things truthfully in my book, to say that if your context and space is changed from one place to the other, and you are surrounded by your existences. Your existence is affected by the surroundings, by the context. Therefore, in some places, I have I have changed my mind. I have tried to defend myself for the cause of my service, or cause of my ideology. And mainstreaming means if there are 50 million people are tribals, then what is their mainstreaming? So mainstream is a debatable question whether South Africa's mainstream is compatible to Indians' mainstream, or Indians' Delhi mainstream is compatible to Bhubaneswari or Bangalore mainstreams, or the urban mainstreams and rural mainstreams, Dalit mainstreams. There are many mainstreams, and there is no single mainstream, and mainstream is invisible. Whatever the policy of knowledge and language and education is devised by the state system in the whole globe is not everything is supported by the community. Community have their own way of living a life, and state is permanent, and the governments those who comes time to time in different ages, they really tries to decide a mainstream. Time was there when Sanskrit was mainstream. Now time is there. The 24 Indian languages are mainstreams, but there are also 1500 schools. There are also 1500 languages. They are very much mainstream in their own world, but when they connect with the external world for the power and knowledge, they have to understand what kind of mainstream the people really want. And Mr. Masroor ji, folk wisdom के बारे में आप जो बोला, folk wisdom तो एक नहीं होता है. Wherever you go, wherever there is accordingly land and language, like that, people, land and language construct their own folk wisdom, which is good for me may not be good for the others. It is the local culture or the regional culture that constitute the folk wisdom in their way. But what Betty was telling, Betty Govindan, that you have to create a one world. This region is being, the whole world is based on kindness, forgiveness, fellow feelingness, international brotherhood. There are many human values that really have saved the world from all disasters, wars, and violence, and all that. Love, brotherhood, kindness, charity, and non-violence and truth are the things that we have learned from Mahatma Gandhi and South African leader Nelson Mandela and many other people many other thinkers of the world. Now we all are global, but at the same time, we have also to see that how a remote village of this country or the whole globe is also maintain the same human values for the social solidarity. We can live with peace, but our power and knowledge in contemporary world perhaps will not allow us to live in peace and non-violence, and see what the whole world is now fighting for, the atomic war and all that, the intolerance between the countries, terrorism, so many things have cropped up. At the same time, the global warming and ecological disorders. So I personally feel that we are not living a good earth for our future generation, and that is the most disturbing things for us, that what we are doing now is not for our future progeny, and this competition, the violence, the war, and the intolerance, all these things have really cropped up. The people who really thinks about the world are always equal, whether they are from South Africa or Arab or India or Japan, they all are equal. But we will continue our struggle for love and peace, struggle for social solidarity, struggle for eliminating caste, struggle for eliminating all kinds of social evils from our society, wherever we are. If I am able to transform a village or a district or a state, that is my satisfaction. And I think that little hundreds of little people can create a very good, beautiful world. This is our thinking. I am not really able to answer all your questions because of your questions are your questions are also embedded with a lot of thoughts. And how much I have been able to understand your questions is also a question. So I think that today it is the initiation of a program, initiation of the book, two books that which I have written with my blood and tears and happiness over last 40 years, the experience of last 40 years. Therefore, in some point of time when we can talk about some thematic discussion, then we can know each other, we can learn from each other, and we can enrich each other for a better world. Thank you very much.
Minati.
Yes, Ananda bhai, I just feel like reading one 1 minute poem for Mahendra sir for that book. Can I? Yes, it is getting late. I need permission.
Yeah, no permission, but you say Mahendra Bhai and Mahendra sir, you can feel comfortable to address Mahendra Bhai as Mahendra Bhai. Please go ahead.
No, sir, I am not your teacher. Minati, yeah.
Please open
Yes.
if it is okay.
Just a minute. Yes, just a minute. But okay, so this poetry, I was just thinking, no, it goes so much with that theme. Like the title of the poem is Matiro Maniso, the soil and the man of the soil. So the people who do not understand Odia, maybe it is little similar to Hindi also. I mean, I hope everybody will understand, except Gan Luigi. Otherwise, Anant Bhai will make a gist of it. ମାଟିର ମଣିଷ ଶୁଣିଛି ତ ମାଟିରେ ଜନ୍ମିଥିବା ଅସଂଖ୍ୟ ପରଜା ଗଢ଼ା ଶୁଦ୍ଧ ପାଣି ଆଉ ପବନରେ। ଶୁଣିଛି ତୋ ମାଟିରେ ଜନ୍ମିଥିବା ଅସଂଖ୍ୟ ପରଜା ଗଢ଼ା ଶୁଦ୍ଧ ପାଣି ଆଉ ପବନରେ। ସେଠି ରକ୍ତରେ ମିଶେ ନାହିଁ ଛଳନା ଓ କପଟର କେମିକାଲ, ଖାଇବାରେ ମିଶେ ନାହିଁ ଆଧୁନିକତାର ଜଙ୍କ। କାଚ ପରି ଶୁଦ୍ଧ ତାଙ୍କ କଳା ଓ ସଂସ୍କୃତି, ଆଗରେ ରଖନ୍ତି ସୁମଧୁର ଭାଷା ଓ ଆଚାର ପଦ୍ଧତି। ଲଜ୍ଜାରେ ନୁଆନ୍ତିନି ମୁଣ୍ଡ ବୁଝି ନ ପାରିଲେ ସଭ୍ୟତାର ଅସଭ୍ୟ ପ୍ରକୃତି। ଲଜ୍ଜାରେ ନୁଆନ୍ତିନି ମୁଣ୍ଡ ବୁଝି ନ ପାରିଲେ ସଭ୍ୟତାର ଅସଭ୍ୟ ପ୍ରକୃତି। ଝରି ପଡ଼େ କୃତଜ୍ଞତା, ଭଲ ପାଆନ୍ତି ପ୍ରକୃତିକୁ ଅନ୍ତରରୁ ଭରି। କିନ୍ତୁ ହଜାଇ ଦିଏ ସଭ୍ୟ ମଣିଷର ବାକ୍ ଚାତୁରୀ, କେମିତି ସାଜିବାକୁ ହୁଏ ବଜାରର ପଣ୍ୟଦ୍ରବ୍ୟ